Have you ever wanted to start a podcast and just didn't know where to go to get your journey started? Well, look no further than Anchor Podcasting. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast, and it gives you everything you need for free in one spot, which you can use right from your computer or a mobile device if you need to record on the go. Creation tools allow you to edit and record your podcast to make it sound the best possible way for your audience and listeners. And they'll also distribute your podcast for you, so you don't have to go through the hassle of talking to different platforms in order to get your podcast through to everybody you wish. This includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. You can easily make money through Anchor Podcasting, and it doesn't require minimum listenership. So once you get started and set up, money can flow in from all directions. So if you're ready to get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's anchor.fm to get your ball rolling and start your podcast journey. You're listening to the Touch 'em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and on today's episode, we're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 163, which takes place from the CSKA Arena in Moscow, Russia, next Saturday, November 9th, as with a main event bout in the Featherweight Division between the number 5 ranked Zabit Magomedsharipov and the number 11 ranked Kattar. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? I hope you guys are having a good day, night, whatever time you're deciding to listen to this podcast. I'm really excited to break down this card for you. The main event, which was previously the co-main event because the original main event was meant to be, I know it was supposed to be Alexander Volkov versus Junior Dos Santos, but Dos Santos had to pull out due to a staph infection, I want to say, or a blood infection. Something happened where he had like a cut on his shin and it got infected and he had to pull out. But now the main event, which should be a 5-round fight, but it is being kept a 3-round fight in Moscow between the number 5 ranked featherweight fighter in the division, Zabit Magomedsharipov, and the number 11 ranked Kattar. This is an amazing fight for the featherweight division. One of the best fights you could possibly make in that division. I say the winner of this fight probably fights the winner of Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, which takes place at UFC 245. If not, they need one more fight, and then they will vault themselves into title contention in that division. Aside from this, we've also got the co-main event between Alexander Volkov. He's still staying on the card, but he's going to be fighting Greg Hardy. 5-1 with 1 no contest. Of course, his last fight, he won via decision over Ben Sassoli, and the decision was overturned due to the fact that he used an inhaler in between rounds 1 and rounds 2, and that was you cannot use an inhaler. Even though he asked for permission to use it, you still can't do it, so they turned it into a no contest. I don't necessarily agree with that because I feel like if you ask and the commission's there and they say you can use it, then how can you turn over the decision if he was given the okay? But that's besides the point, and that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to break down the card. I will not be breaking down the entire card. We're just going to be breaking down the main event, the co-main event, and one more fight on the main card, which I believe is a sleeper in the welterweight division. So let's get it started with the sleeper fight on the card. In 170 pounds in the welterweight division, we have Salim Imadaev versus Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. Salim has 8 wins, 1 defeat. Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, 16 wins, 4 losses. Both coming off losses. Salim lost to Max Griffin via decision at UFC 236, while Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts lost via KO to Michel Pereira. And yes, this should be a good fight. You know, at first, I was a little bit confused. Not confused. I don't know why I said confused. I was a little bit skeptical on the card. Of course, the main event and the co-main event are very interesting, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, you know, this is a good card based on the co-main and main, but it's one of those cards like back in the day where they give you a huge main event and a good co-main event, and then the rest of the card is just like, you know, whatever. It's all right. But, you know, it is what it is. And I'm excited to start these predictions. So he lost to Michel Pereira, Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts did, at UFC on ESPN Plus 10, which took place on May 18th, 2019. So not too long ago, about 6 months ago, so half a year. He had enough time to recover from the KO. Obviously, it was a flying knee launched into a straight right hand, which dropped him and KO'd him. Vicious knockout for Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. But Danny Roberts is a really good fighter. He fights in a southpaw stance, and you need to watch out for his overhand left. He throws his left hand instead of throwing it straight down the center, which he can do, he throws it down the pipe, moves around. He likes to fake and feint a lot and try to drag out a shot from the opponent so he can slip on the inside or slip to the outside and counter with that overhand left. And he's got good jiu-jitsu. We've seen him get a triangle, an armbar, like a mixture of a triangle armbar before in his career, and he has good wrestling as well. 16 wins, 4 losses, a good record. Definitely, I think he can win this fight. Zabit Magomedsharipov, he's a good striker. He's got decent striking, and he's a good wrestler. 8 wins and 1 loss. He lost to Max Griffin at UFC 236 because Griffin was just able to push the pace on him and kind of tire him out in the grappling exchanges. He was just pushing forward, constant wrestling pressure, clinches, body locks, pushing him up against the fence, and ended up getting him tired and squeaking out the decision win. So Magomedsharipov is going to be looking to come back with a vengeance here, and I see Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts coming back. They're both coming off losses. They definitely need a win here. It's a tough one to call, and it's not a fight that a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, this is going to be such a good fight, because I believe Zabit Magomedsharipov is not really well known, and not even to me. I knew his name, but I had to look up a few highlights and see what this dude was about, and I believe he's good, but I think Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts is better. I think Roberts has a higher fight IQ when it comes to the striking game. And I believe if it goes to the ground, he'll probably have a disadvantage because I believe Magomedsharipov, he's a good striker, but he can also wrestle. He's got some good wrestling as well. It's a tough one to call. It's kind of a toss-up fight for me. But I'm going to go with Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. I think the experience here is going to pay dividends for him in the fight. I think he's going to be able to draw out shots from Zabit and counter, possibly landing that overhand left and hurting Zabit and then going for takedowns or mixing it up on the feet. I think he's going to be able to hit Zabit and get out of the way. I do believe that Magomedsharipov is going to be able to, push forward and push a pace and probably try to tire out Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, but I think he's going to be on the defensive. I think he's going to be slick, and I think he's going to counter a lot. And I see Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. I'm going to go with a second round TKO. I think he's going to be able to find a home for that overhand left, which we've seen. It's vicious. If he lands on your chin with the overhand left, he's going to drop you. He's going to put you to sleep. And I think this is what's going to happen. I think he's going to land that overhand left as Zabit tries to rush forward to get into a striking exchange. I think he's going to slip, counter with that overhand left, hurt him, stumble him, and get a TKO victory in the second round. But yeah, this should be a good fight, and I think a lot of people are overlooking him. Next, we're going to move to the co-main event of the evening. Like I said, I'm not breaking down the entire card, but the co-main and the main event are the best fights to break down on the card, without a doubt. We've got in the heavyweight division, Alexander Drago Volkov, the number 7 ranked heavyweight, versus Greg Hardy, the newcomer in the UFC. 5 wins, 1 loss, 1 no contest, as compared to 30 wins and 7 losses for Alexander Drago Volkov. When it comes to breaking down the statistics, Volkov has 66% of his wins coming by KO, 10% by submission, and 24% by decision. Greg Hardy, 100% wins by KO. It would have been 5 KOs, 1 decision, but like I said, the decision over Ben Sassoli was overturned to a no contest due to the inhaler usage, which I said I didn't really agree with. When it comes to other stats, Alexander Volkov lands 6.28 strikes per minute, has a 56% striking significant strike defense, and Greg Hardy, all wins coming by way of knockout, like I said, 100%, and he lands 3.88 strikes per minute and has a 64% striking accuracy. This is a mismatch. This is a total mismatch, and I think a lot of people are obviously they're counting Greg Hardy out, and you should, because Alexander Volkov is an amazing striker. He's a seasoned veteran, a former world champion in other promotions, and just the overall way better fighter. Like they always say, there's levels to this game, and Alexander Volkov is close to the final level, and Greg Hardy is still in the tutorial stage. I know that sounds rough, but I just don't see a way. The only way I could see Greg Hardy winning, and this is why I give him a slight chance. I give him a chance. A lot of people are probably going to say Volkov's going to run right through him. But the fact that Greg Hardy hit so hard and Volkov was winning the fight against Derek the Black Beast Lewis at UFC 229 for the entire fight, he was landing vicious shots to the body, kicks, punches, knees up the middle to the body of Derek Lewis, hurting him with shots up close, keeping him at range and landing his kicks, his hooks to the kicks and everything like that. But he got overzealous, and Derek Lewis was able to come in and wing a shot and knock him out. I don't think Greg Hardy hits as hard as Derek Lewis, but I think if he does connect on the chin of Alexander Volkov, just because of how bad the last knockout was, I know he had time to recover, but it was such a rough knockout. I feel like his chin is not going to be the same. And if Greg Hardy's able to close the distance, come in and land that overhand right or overhand left or a big shot on Volkov, I think he can drop him, hurt him, and possibly get a TKO. But other than that, this is going to be a showcase for Alexander Volkov to show why he deserves to be at the top of the division. And it's going to be a wake-up call for Greg Hardy. Can he hang with the upper echelon of the UFC's heavyweight division? I believe Volkov can be a champion in the division without a doubt. He was on standby for the fight between Miocic and Cormier when they fought at UFC 241. I'm pretty sure he was an alternate just in case something was to go wrong with that fight. But everything went to plan. That just shows you how much faith they have in a guy like Volkov. Volkov has a knockout win over Fabricio Verdum, which is amazing on his record. And he's just an overall cleaner, crisper striker. I think Greg Hardy's going to probably play it a little bit patient for like the first minute or two in the fight and try to feel it out. And I think Volkov's just going to play the outside game, keep his distance, land some vicious leg kicks, shots to the body, knees up the middle if Hardy tries to come in. If Hardy tries to take him down, I don't believe he's going to be able to do it. Like I said, Greg Hardy has a shot, but he has to knock out Alexander Volkov. If he plays the distance game and tries to fight a technical fight against a guy like Alexander Volkov, it's not going to work out well for him, and he's going to get picked apart. And I see him really getting picked apart either way. I think Volkov, like I said, is going to be able to keep him at a distance. I think he's going to be able to land that power straight down the center, those hooks. I think he's going to throw a lot of kicks to the legs and to the body of Greg Hardy. We haven't seen much of him in his mixed martial arts career, but he does throw kicks, but I don't think a lot of his opponents have thrown kicks at him, and I think that's going to be the key for Volkov. He's going to stay on the outside, land vicious leg kicks, kicks to the body, knees up the middle whenever Greg Hardy tries to close the distance, and push off and keep his distance away from him. And I think he's going to get a knockout. I'm going to go a second round KO for Alexander Volkov in the fight. I think the first round is going to be a little interesting. I think if Hardy lands, he can hurt him, like I said. But I just think Volkov is too crisp and too clean and too much of a veteran, a former world champion in mixed martial arts. And I just think it's going to show here. And he's going to put on a dominating performance, in my opinion. And Volkov, second round KO. I wouldn't be surprised if it was due to a head kick. I could see him faking a kick to the body and coming up with a head kick and knocking him out that way, or just accumulation of shots and then ripping to the body, dropping Greg Hardy. But like I said, I have Volkov second round KO. Now, for the best fight on the card, formerly the co-main event at UFC Fight Night Boston, which was headlined previously about 2 weeks ago by Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens, or that wasn't the main event. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said it was co-mained by Jeremy Stevens and Yair Rodriguez, main evented by Dominic Reyes and Chris Weidman. But Kelvin Kattar and Zabit Magomedsharipov were supposed to fight on the card previous to that one, I believe. I can't remember. I know there was a mix with the fight between. Okay, no. So here's what happened. So Zabit and Jeremy Stevens were the main event for UFC Mexico City. It ended in 13 seconds due to the eye poke. Then their fight was moved to 3 weeks later down the line at the UFC Fight Night between Dominic Reyes and Chris Weidman. And the fight was supposed to be co-mained by the fight we're going to talk about now, Kelvin Kattar versus Zabit Magomedsharipov. But Zabit said he wasn't ready to fight and he had an injury, so they moved the fight to his hometown of Moscow, Russia, when it was previously going to be in Boston, which is the hometown of Kelvin Kattar. I'm not going to say that there was any fishy business going on here, but to be honest, I don't see why the fight was moved. It was only moved a few weeks down the line. So the injury must not have been that bad, or whatever was going on with Zabit, why he had to pull out, if it was illness or injury. I just think that they're stacking the deck here for Zabit Magomedsharipov to pull out the victory. I think that they see a lot of money in a kid like this. Obviously, he gets trained by Mark Henry. He's 17-1. He's could be the champion in the featherweight division, even though I don't see that happening. He's got the skills to do it, but I just don't think it's going to happen unless Max Holloway moves up to 155 pounds and relinquishes the title, or, Alexander Volkanovski beats Max Holloway at UFC 245 and then fights Zabit. I think Zabit versus Alexander Volkanovski would be a good fight as well. But this just seems like they're trying to stack the deck against Kelvin Kattar. This gives me serious Rocky IV vibes, where Kelvin Kattar's, Rocky Balboa, and Zabit Magomedsharipov's the Russian. They're going to his backyard in Moscow to fight the Russian, to fight the Dagestani. And I think Kelvin Kattar is going to be able to pull it off here. And here's why I say this. So Kelvin Kattar's got a record of 19 wins, 3 losses. Zabit Magomedsharipov, 17 wins, 1 loss. Kelvin Kattar's wins are broken down like this. 50% of his wins come by KO, 10% by submission, 40% by decision, and he has a 42% accuracy with his significant strikes. Zabit Magomedsharipov has 35% of his wins by knockout, 41% of his wins by submission, 24% by decision, and a 53% accuracy with his significant strikes. Zabit's an amazing fighter. He's good everywhere. Obviously, coming from Russia, from Dagestan, your wrestling and your clinch game and your grappling and top pressure is going to be top-notch, because that's what everybody in Dagestan is known for. I feel like Zabit is going to mix it up in this fight like he does in every fight. He's going to be throwing spinning roundhouse kicks, 2-touch spinning kicks where he touches with the lead leg to the body and then comes up with the rear leg to the head as he spins. Senshai kicks. I could see him throwing that hand plant roundhouse kick. I could see him throwing vicious kicks to the body, flying knees, showtime kicks off the cage, transitioning from striking to takedowns effortlessly. I think that he's going to be looking to do all of this. But Kelvin Kattar is a gamer. I have talked about him multiple times on the podcast. I would love to get him on as a guest if it's possible. If you can just get this podcast to him, to have him listen, I would love for you to do that. But here's the thing. Zabit is obviously, in my opinion, the more well-rounded fighter. He has more weapons to win. But Kelvin Kattar, his boxing is so crisp and so clean, and his management of range and his timing and his fight IQ is what I think is going to be the difference in this fight. Like I said, Zabit is more well-rounded. He has a lot more weapons. The wrestling and the grappling is in heavy favor of Zabit. That doesn't mean I don't think Kelvin Kattar has good wrestling. He does. He can defend takedowns. He can get his way back up to his feet if he gets taken down. But his management of distance and range is what's going to be the difference in this fight. I think he's going to fight very patiently in the first round, feel out Zabit, let him throw a lot of his strikes, like those kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, spinning kicks to the head, and everything like that, and keep his range. I think he's going to keep that jab out and try to touch the lead hand of Zabit consistently. I think he's going to try to touch the lead hand, throw that left hook and that straight right to the body. I think he's going to, kind of like what he did to Ricardo Lamas at UFC 238 in Chicago, Illinois. I was there in person to see the fight, and it's just he's such a professional. Everything he does is well thought out. It's just touch, 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 left hook, boom. Okay, you react like this, pull your head back. Okay, I'm going to fake the right hand and throw the left hook. Or I'm going to fake the left hook to get you to lean towards my right hand and fire that cross down the center. And that's what he does. His best punch is that straight right hand. He likes to loop it, like I said, with that hook. He throws that lead hook to direct you into the power of the right hand. Boom, land that hand and drop you. Throw shots to the body. His boxing is so crisp and so clean. He probably has the best boxing in the featherweight division. I think him, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski have some of the best all-around boxing, but when it comes to just pure boxing and hand technique, I think Kelvin Kattar is at the top of the division. And like I said, Zabit can definitely win this fight. I think a lot of people are overlooking a guy like Kelvin here, though. I think the first round is going to be Zabit trying to take down Kelvin Kattar, throw vicious kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, spinning kicks to the head, probably try some showtime kicks, push him up against the fence and land. But I think Kelvin's going to just stay on the outside. I think he's going to slip a lot of the strikes, keep him at a distance, counter whenever he gets the shot, gets the chance. I see him being able to land that left hook a lot. I think he's going to be able to catch the beat with a left hook, maybe as he tries to throw a kick, come down the center, or throw a flying knee or something like that. I think he's going to be able to push off with that lead hand and throw that left hook. I think he's going to get Zabit to bite on a lot of his feints. He likes to put that right hand out there and lean forward as like a two-touch. I call it like a double touch. You put it out there to try to gauge the opponent's reaction, and then they fire. You sit back and you counter. You can either plant back on your rear leg and do like a pull counter and counter back with that same right hand, or you could slip and counter with the hook, pull, jab, cross, and things like that. Kelvin Kattar has a very good lancing jab. One thing that's going to worry me in this fight is going to be the leg kicks of Zabit Magomedsharipov against Kelvin Kattar. We saw Kelvin have trouble with the leg kicks against Renato Moicano at UFC 223. I believe he could have won that fight, but he just was getting picked apart with the leg kicks. Mark Delagrade from Team Setyotong Muay Thai was saying it a lot in the corner, like, you're getting hit with these leg kicks consistently. You got to block and check the leg kicks, and he didn't check the leg kicks, and that's what cost him the fight against Moicano. And Zabit's going to be throwing kicks to the legs, to the body, to the head, everything. He's going to be throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Kelvin Kattar. But in the fight against Ricardo Lamas, he did get hit with a few leg kicks, but then he was able to gauge the distance and manage the distance and be able to pull his lead leg back in order to have Lamas miss. And I think that he's going to use the same thing against Zabit, but I believe instead of just pulling the leg back and settling for a second, I think he's going to pull the leg back and immediately come back with 2 or 3 punches to counter, so Zabit's not able to get into his rhythm. And I see Kelvin Kattar losing the first round. I think it'll be close, but I think Zabit will do a little bit more work and probably land 2 more shots and maybe get a takedown or 2 takedowns in the first round. But I think Kelvin's going to dictate the pace towards the middle and end of that second round. I think he's going to tire out Zabit Magomedsharipov by just being the crisper, cleaner boxer. I'm not saying he's the crisper striker all around, but I think his hands, his fight IQ, and just his overall, movement and being able to figure you out and gauge the distance and fake and feint. I think he's going to fake and feint a lot and get Zabit to bite and counter on things that aren't there, which is going to tire him out. And I see him being able to, I don't know if it would be timing a kick, because I feel like that would be kind of hard for Kelvin to time a kick with a right hand or a left hook. But I think what he's going to do is push the pace on Zabit towards the middle of that second round, come forward. I think Zabit's going to try to throw some flashy spinning kick or a roundhouse kick. Kelvin's going to move out of the way, and the second Zabit plants his feet down, I think Kelvin's going to come back into range and throw that long left hook to that straight right hand, that left hook right cross, and I think that's going to catch Zabit on the jaw. I think it's going to drop him, and I believe Kelvin Kattar will get a TKO victory in the third round of the fight and hand Zabit his first loss in the UFC. That's how I see the fight playing out. Like I said, this is an amazing fight, and I can't wait to see it. I hope you enjoyed my predictions and everything like that. Obviously, tomorrow night, UFC 244, Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz at Madison Square Garden in New York for the Baddest Motherfucker Championship, when The Rock will be putting the belt on the winner. This is one of the best cards of the year, the best card of the year so far. If you haven't listened to my breakdown on the card for tomorrow night, definitely go out of your way and listen to it. It's episode 44, part 2, UFC 244 predictions. Let me just break down some of the fights on this card for you really quick. We've got Makwan Amirkhani versus Shane Burgos in the Featherweight Division. We've got Johnny Walker versus Corey Anderson in the Light Heavyweight Division for possibly the next challenger for John Bones Jones. We've got Vincente Luque versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the welterweight division. We've got Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie in Kevin Lee's return to the lightweight division after a brief stint at 170 pounds, going up against the undefeated wrestling phenom Gregor Gillespie. We've got Darren the Gorilla Till moving up to 185 pounds to take on the former interim middleweight championship challenger Kelvin Gastelum in the co-main event. And then, like I said, in the main event of the evening, a 5-round fight for the BMF championship between Jorge Gamebred Masvidal and the Stockton gangster Nate Diaz. So if you haven't checked out my predictions, go out of your way to listen to them before the fights tomorrow night. And I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of UFC Fight Night 163 in Boston, or in Moscow, Russia. I'm sorry. Get this podcast out to your friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, coworkers, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, anybody you got, MMA fans. If you know Kelvin, Zabit, Alexander Volkov, Greg Hardy, if you know any professional mixed martial artists or any reporters or anything that could help get my name out there and get the Touch 'Em Up podcast to another level than it is on right now, go out of your way to do it. If you're listening to the podcast, I appreciate you tuning in. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Have a good one.